You guys, today we completed our 1,000 hours of being outside, which has been a big time family goal for us this year. We did it in 9 months. So we're still tracking, we're still gonna finish out the rest of the summer and see how many hours we can get outside. But this has really been a family affair. It has been something that Elisha has been very on board with. And this wasn't just my baby, I guess. And I think that's why it happened, and it happened so quickly, was that Elisha took the lead on this actually often more than I did. I remember that there was a week where I was sick in bed. It was 3 degrees outside, and Elisha for 3 days in a row bundled the kids up and took them outside in the 3-degree weather and was making sure they were getting their time outside. And so it's just been something that our whole family has really embraced. We're excited to give you a quick recap of it today. If you guys enjoy this video, click the subscribe down below, hit the thumbs up button, and then we can see you every Thursday. Well, I mean, we can't really see you, but you know, we like reading your comments.
Being able to track each hour that we spent outside was a very quantifiable way to obviously track progress and to count it as a win when we got 15 minutes outside here or 20 minutes outside there. And seeing it complete, seeing that 1,000 hours come to completion was rewarding. And I think not only did it change our life in such a beneficial way, it really changed our future life as well. We are going to integrate this into our lifestyle for forever. I think because of how much it enhanced our everyday life. Whether or not we track it as detailed as we did this last year, I know that our habits, I think, are forever changed. Our appetites are changed because of the intentionality that we put into being outside over the last 9 months.
Yeah, we're a different family now. I know this sounds so dramatic, but we truly are a different family than we were 9 months ago because of this. We went screen-free because of this. Like, this was a big motivator, because we were like, we could be getting this time outside. Why are we gonna waste it sitting in here? We've developed new family hobbies together, and really the kids won't let us now go for a long time without being outside. They crave it, they drive it, they want to be outside. It doesn't matter what the weather is, and they get Elisha and I out there.
Yeah, I've talked about how your kids can be like the best accountability partners ever when it comes to our family Bible times or praying in the evening time or even eating healthy. And spending time outside is certainly one of those instances where our kiddos were our accountability oftentimes throughout the last 9 months. It's remarkable when I look back over our first few years of marriage. We've always lived in beautiful places. We lived in Bend, Oregon, we lived in Western Washington, and now we're living in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. But it wasn't until this last year that we became hikers. We became outdoors people. We went out and started camping as a family. We were out skiing very frequently as a family. We went on snowshoe hikes. Like we did so many things that we had never done before. Even though we've always lived in beautiful places, we were the huddle inside and work on our computer couple.
Yeah, we'd always say, oh, we aren't the hiking couple, or we aren't the outdoorsman type couple. And that's all really changed this year for the better, because when you're out in nature, it's a big time de-stressor. It is an incredible way to get conversation in as a couple where your kiddos play and entertain themselves. And so it was just so healthy for our family overall. And we've really talked about this, how you can influence each other's appetites place when it comes to just your marriage in general. And that has been something that I really feel we have grown in and supported each other in this year, was this shared value and this shared vision for getting our children outside. Once we started seeing the benefit of it and the blessing of it, it became like this shared hobby and goal for us.
Yes.
And I feel like it's silly, but anytime you have something that you unite on in your marriage and you have like this shared target you're moving for, it can really bless your marriage. You can move ahead.
No question about that. You know, the Bible says that we're one once we're married, but oftentimes we don't act like it or we don't feel like it. So whenever you're able to find even the littlest goal to align on, that can then spread throughout other aspects of your marriage. And I think this is one of those perfect examples where you're thinking, oh, what a silly goal to be charging as a family, just spending 1,000 hours outside. But you mentioned something just a second ago that is so true, is that the quality of conversation that Katie and I were able to get because of the time we spent outdoors was much higher than past years. Because I mean, maybe you've experienced this where you're in your kitchen after dinner and you're kind of trying to tidy up the dishes and the kids need attention and they're asking if they can watch a movie, or they're spilling their dinner all over the place, and you're trying to talk with your spouse. You're thinking, boy, we're just trying to catch up on the day and get on the same page, and our kids who we love need all this attention from us. It's crazy. You take like 3 to 4 or 5 minutes to get them ready to go outside. You all go outside and you won't hear from them. They are so self-entertained as they're walking down the sidewalk or on a bike path, and they're looking at the leaves and they're jumping in the mud puddles, and you and I get this uninterrupted time to converse, and it's been just a huge blessing for our marriage as well as our overall family.
Yeah, so I had this book recommended to me by my aunt, and it was called There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather, Only Bad Clothing, or something like that. I'll link it down below. And so I read this book, and I just felt like, wow, I really think that there's so many benefits to being outside. Then, you know, I talked to Elisha about it, because I talked to Elisha about all the books I read, talk his ear off. And then I read 10 Ways to Destroy the Imagination of Your Child. And again, that book like brought home the importance of being outside. And then I started getting into the Charlotte Mason philosophy, and I'm bringing all this stuff to Elisha. And by the end of reading these books, we were like, we are so doing this thing. And it started out kind of pretty good actually in the fall, because the goal is 3 hours a day. Average, right? And so we knew that come wintertime, we wanted to be ahead of schedule, because wintertime's gonna like go slow. But the funny thing is our kids were so used to being outside because we had such an incredible fall. They stayed outside for 3 hours, 4 hours. We had 6-hour days in the wintertime often.
Yes, and a lot of that was thanks to going on family hikes or having a family ski day. But even without that, they would find so many things to keep them entertained with in the backyard in all sorts of weather. Even my least favorite weather is rainy weather, but we've got them these rain suits, and they would love just sliding and slipping on the trampoline in those rainy days, those rainy months that we had here in Coeur d'Alene that transitioned into snow. And there's such a new winter wonderland that they get to experience in our backyard. And we don't have a huge backyard, yet they found it so entertaining as they were out there with the various seasons. And as the weather changed, it became like a new playground for them with each, as the weather was different.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize how cool that was. Every single season, the park is new because it had all the snow, or it had all the rain, or it has all the leaves and the acorns are falling. Like, every season is so new, and it just resets your neighborhood, and you get a fresh playground, like Elisha said. And so that was really cool, just for our family walks. We go for a family walk almost every day after dinner. Yep. The kids beg for a family walk after dinner, which is really sweet. It's time for us to visit and for the kiddos to get time outdoors, and we walk the same paths all the time, and they just constantly are changing. There's new holiday light decorations up, or there's new, you know, like the whole neighborhood changes, and it's really fun. We would have never noticed those things. We would have never seen all the tractors on the streets getting rid of the leaves, or brushing the streets, or cutting down the trees after a windfall, or, you know, just the maintenance guys out there working on electrical or yard work. Like, we see so many things that I'm like, if we were just in our house, which we usually would be, we never would have seen this. We never would have been exposed to what it looks like to take care of a neighborhood. Today we get to share something with you guys that is so exciting. We've been working on it behind the scenes for the past couple months, and that is we are launching a Marriage Maximizer, which is an online marriage program that we've partnered with my parents to create. My parents have been married for 30 years. Over that time, they have been coaching other couples when it comes to marriage for the last 15 years. And I cannot think of a marriage that I respect more than my parents' marriage, which is kind of crazy when you think that I grew up in their home where they had 11 biological kids, and I got to watch how they worked through disagreements. I got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I just respect them more and more and more.
Yeah, since before Katie and I were married, Chad and Janice have been our favorite marriage coaches, our marriage mentors, and as time's gone on and I've gotten to know them more and see more of the fruit from their marriage and from their lives, I've only grown in the admiration and respect that I have for them. So to be able to partner with them and create Marriage Maximizer as a Now That We're a Family product, honestly, it's kind of humbling, but beyond that, I'm just pumped. Like, I'm really excited that we get to be associated with Chad and Janice, that we get to offer this product to you because it is so valuable. Katie and I use these resources, these tools, these frameworks, and these mindsets every single day. They have been the most helpful things for our marriage, and so we're so grateful that we get to offer them to you in this online space. And so be sure to check the link below. You'll see all the details there. Katie, is there anything else they need to know?
Well, I just want you to know this is a very vulnerable course. When we thought about who we wanted to speak to marriage to our audience and someone that we could completely back and get behind, we thought of my parents. Just their vulnerability and their realness. You are going to laugh with them on this. You're going to also watch a lot of tears as they talk about really hard times in their marriage and struggles with pornography and struggles with biblical roles and miscommunication and, you know, having 6 kids and living in a tent in a trailer. They get really raw about the ups and downs, the highs and lows in their marriage, and then the tools and resources that they used, starting with scripture and then building out practical ways to implement that scripture in their marriage, that not only gave them a thriving marriage that they're grateful to be a part of it. I'm grateful to be the recipient of that.
Benefactor.
Yeah, the blessing of that. But also what has helped them coach hundreds and hundreds of couples over the last 10 to 15 years. So regardless of what your background is, I think you're going to be so encouraged by this program. Up until this point, my parents have only coached newlyweds or had a super high-end marriage retreat that is close to $6,000 to attend. So neither of those are really great options for people like us who are young and we feel like we want that input. Again, we want to be able to revisit all these things, especially in this season of having young kids and creating the foundation for our family. And so we not only get to access this content now when we need it for support in our marriage, but also we get to give that to you guys. So super excited to be able to do that. And actually tomorrow night, my parents are doing a live Q&A on creating a masterpiece marriage. So not only is the link to enroll linked down below, but also there will be a link to jump on that Q&A if you guys want to meet them in person, if you want to ask questions specific to your marriage or ask them anonymously. There's a link to register for that down below. It's going to be Wednesday, 6:30 at Pacific Standard Time.
At Pacific Standard Time.
I know that this is kind of a point that Katie already made, but because we went screen-free, I think it was so important for us to have something to pursue, not just go away from. You know how like anytime you're trying to quit something, you need to replace that with something else? And this was that for us. When we went screen-free, it's like, well, we need to be going towards something. And this was a very objective goal for us to work towards. And it made going screen-free all the more doable and engaging. And we've said this numerous times, we can create new appetites within ourselves and certainly within our children. And that happened way quicker than I was anticipating with our kiddos. So instead of, finishing up dinner and the kids asking to watch something every single night, after a couple of weeks of just that family walk or going outside right after dinner, they weren't asking ever again, and they were getting their own clothes on. Our older kids were, they were getting their boots on.
They asked for a family walk. That's what they ask for every night now.
Yeah, so how cool is that when you are able to step back, take this 10,000 foot view at what you want for your life going forward, and it seems impossible in the moment, to have that confidence that, man, I can actually change my instinctual desires. I can change my appetites. I can change what my kids instinctually want, and that can be such a blessing to the home.
Yeah, so there is obviously good clothing and bad clothing, especially when you have little children. You want them, that's a big piece to this puzzle, I guess, is you need to have the right gear for the right season. Otherwise, it's miserable for everybody, and you aren't gonna make your kids stand out there and freeze, right? You aren't gonna do that either. It's just not a good idea, and that's not the point. The point is to teach our children that we can enjoy all kinds of weather. All kinds of weather is worth being out in and experiencing, and we could be cozy and toasty and having a blast out in that weather. So we do have a video that was one of the first videos we filmed on this channel with the gear that we specifically use. We'll be using it again this next year, and that is linked down below. It is an investment up front. That's why it's a huge blessing if you have your spouse on board, because you're both investing together. But you can take it season by season and really prove yourself that you use the gear, and you get outside and you use the rain suits and you use the rain boots, and then when it's time to purchase the ski suits, you have this credibility. It's not like the weight rack out in the garage that you never use. So, you know, you can build up that credibility. What are some of the things that we did each season? I wrote down some of them.
Yeah, let's give some details as to how we did this.
Yeah, so I think a big part of doing this is knowing what you're kind of going to be pursuing in each season. I feel like why this is going to be so easy for us going forward is we already have tried and true things that we know that we love now. But at first we were kind of at a loss when we're used to just like, oh, it's cold, we're inside. One of the first things we did was family hikes and fires.
Yeah, and this is something that we implemented on our Sabbath. And so, again, we've done videos on how and why we implemented a 24-hour rest period into our week. And this was just a practical thing that we could do on our Saturday afternoon. The internet's off, we're not gonna be working. And something that makes this far more doable is when it's planned ahead of time. And so instead of waking up and Saturday's starting and the kids are getting antsy and you're trying to find a way to, you know, for them to expend their energy in the moment, to ahead of time have a list of potential hike locations or potential hikes in your region that you can then start going through the list. And this was something that we did for the first time. As we've already said, we were never the hiking family, but there's these websites out there that have lists of hikes and they're rated and they tell you all the details about the hikes, and it's incredible. And so we started utilizing those websites and having a list of hikes that we are going to do just within our area. And again, we are blessed to live in just a gorgeous region with endless hiking opportunities. And so, I mean, you know, we haven't even exhausted all of the beautiful hikes in our area over this year. We probably could go multiple years without exhausting all the hikes, but that was something that early on got us all on the same page, and it got these chunks of hours, where instead of like an hour here or an hour there, it's like, wow, we got 7.5 hours today as a family outside because we packed a picnic and did this great hike, and the kids were so engaged, and I don't know, it was so enjoyable. And I will say one more thing, as a dad, and this might be something that is common amongst dads, is that you're kind of mission focused, that you're focused on the destination, but when you're tracking hours outside, there's no way for it to take too long to finish up the hike. Like every minute that you're out there is a win, because the goal is to be outside. And so if it takes an hour to go a half mile on the trail, I had zero stress. I'm like, that's great.
It changes what you're tracking,
yes,
and it changes the rules of the game and how you win. So you aren't the pushy parent that's like, we gotta do this. It's just like, just being here is a win. I think that's what I love about this tracking system, is just being, like, that's it.
Yeah.
You just have to be there. You don't have to accomplish anything. And that's where a relationship is formed, is in those moments of carefree timelessness where you're just enjoying the moment and you're just totally present. And that's something that I really loved. Elisha headed up all of our hikes, so he planned them out, and he also brought all of his gear and would light fires, and so we'd sit around the fire and eat lunch when it got really cold, when it started to snow and sleet and stuff like that. And the kids just loved that. Our 6-year-old now is obsessed with building fires when we go out to the woods, and Elisha's teaching him fire safety too, obviously. That's a big part of it. But that's just been really special. And learning to build fires, it's not only a great life skill when you're out in the cold and the wet and Timbuktu, but it also is something that really would extend the life of our outdoor visit, because you're able to stay all warm and cozy and eat. Something I would say is packing good food makes everyone so happy to stay outside longer. Food's a big part of enjoying anything, but especially the outdoors. You don't want people getting cold, and you don't want people being hungry.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that Katie did an incredible job with, where all of a sudden the association with being outside isn't negative. It's not cold and it's not miserable. It's, oh, now when we go outside, you're expecting a fun meal, a fun snack, some of your treats that you maybe wouldn't get on a normal day. You can expect those. And so the association that the kids have from the start is really positive. They're really positive associations. And so that was something, because Katie was so eager to make this a positive experience, she did. It was just a win for everybody.
We both did. You did too.
Well, yeah, but there were certain things that you did that, you know, I didn't think of, but they enhanced the experience so much.
Yeah. So something that I loved throughout this whole process was our kids now not only don't fear the weather, they don't consider the weather when we go outdoors. It's kind of crazy. Like I don't say, oh, it's cold outside. Like when they're like, we want to go do this, or oh, it's wet outside, or it's not a good day. If they want to go out, I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm not putting that language in their head just because in my head, I think this is terrible weather. We are not going outside. We just go outside and we dress for it, and they're so resilient. And this is what's really cool, is then you could do cool things with your kids, because they are so comfortable being slightly uncomfortable. They're so comfortable being with their noses cold, or trudging through the snow, maybe sweating in their suits, or starting cold and having to warm up, that we went skiing so much this year and they loved it. And we went on some brutally cold days, and they weren't did a child ever complain they were cold?
Oh, no.
That was not it.
I was so proud of my boys, Leon, who's 6, and Lewis, who's 3. The 3 of us went on a father-son overnight trip, and it was a 3-mile hike in with like almost 1,200 feet elevation gain. So it wasn't just like this flat 3 miles. They packed their own backpacks. I did carry Lewis through some of the rougher patches, but Leon carried his pack by himself. He walked the whole way to the top of this mountain that we were camping on. We set up camp, and then it snowed that night. So this was in the spring when weather was kind of hit or miss and you didn't really know what to expect. And sure enough, it snowed 2 inches that night, and they got up and they weren't complaining. They just put their gloves on. They went out while I was building a fire, and I thought, how cool is this that I'm able to go out with my boys and to camp in the snow. They're packing their own gear and their own equipment. There would be things that they couldn't do, like they couldn't climb over some of the big fallen trees or the stumps, and I would have to help them, but they weren't whining and they weren't complaining, and not one of them cried the entire time. It was such a blessing for us.
Yeah, which is really cool. And also just stuff like, they know, okay, it takes forever to build a fire in the winter. Like you don't have your gas can, you're like, Elisha does it all like the from scratch type of fire building. And so even stuff like that, like when you're building a fire up there and they're cold and they're hungry and it's the morning, they aren't just sitting there crying for food. They're like, okay, we're gonna build a fire. That means this is gonna be a process.
Yes,
you know?
yes. Well,
their timelines are accurate as far as how long stuff takes.
And they get engaged with the process. So they're off trying to find good tinder, and they're looking for wood, and they're looking for the different sizes of sticks. Yeah, exactly. They're always keeping an eye out for sap when we're on the trail. And so they're very engaged the whole time. That's kind of a side point, but it was really cool to see how my kids, how all of us grew in our capabilities and in our overall comfort zone in being in the outdoors.
Yeah, and let's see, winter activities, let's see, in the fall, yeah, it's rainy. But I mean, you go out and you jump in puddles. If you have a rain suit, the rain is no big deal. It's super easy. But skiing, sledding, snow camping, I put that down. Your father-son hikes that you did all year round. And actually, our babysitter is an incredible trooper, because it gets dark here at like 3:30 to 4 in the wintertime, so you have the cold and it's also dark. And I'd be like, okay, you know what, if like Elisha and I would go on a date and I would tell her, you know, if you can take the kids outside at all tonight, that would be great. And she would have them bundled up in the pitch black and they'd be playing outside in the yard or going on a hike. And like no one is out. But she really just bought into the vision too.
Yes.
And had our kids outside. And so it was really cool just to see everyone come together for that. Again, the kids don't notice the weather, so come spring, I look out my window in the morning, it is literally 34 degrees, and my boys are out there with no shirts on and jumping around because it's so warm. And so I was like, okay, get inside, put a shirt on, you know. But they love to dig holes, build forts. Again, we went to a lot of parks in the spring. We gave them lots of hammers and nails. Now, our back porch is really janky, but we have 2 posts that we allow them to hang stuff on, and so they're always doing their little construction projects on those 2 posts. We're in a subdivision, and so I feel like I'm willing to sacrifice 2 posts of our porch to just look like porcupines for them to have little projects to do. And then in the summer, when it gets really hot, we've invested in bikes. So it could be really, really sweaty. We've had 100-degree weeks here. We had 1 month where it was, I think, 100 degrees every day, which isn't like supernatural. We don't live in Texas or anything, you know, like we don't have incredible humidity or anything here. So that's really hot for us. And we found that bike riding was a way to get outside and have fun as a family, but have the wind blowing in our faces.
Yeah, it's crazy how you feel so much cooler on a bike, temperature-wise, than you do when you're just walking as a family. The sun doesn't feel as oppressive, like it's beating down on you because you've got this breeze the whole time that you're biking, and the kids love that. And once again, this is like ideal conversation time for Katie and I. We're just side by side on the bike path, and the kids are ripping around on their bikes or they're in the trailer, and Katie and I can talk basically like we're on a date. It's pretty cool.
We go to the river a lot. Again, when it's really hot, we'll have the kids jump on the backyard and the trampoline, have everybody get all soaking wet, then go on a bike ride, bike to the river, dunk in the river, so everyone stays cool kind of out and back. Gardening outside is great. We move the trampoline to different spots. There's 2 different spots we can move it in our backyard. For one, they can jump off the porch, one they can jump off the playhouse. It's a little different and it just kind of mixes it up. Splash pads are great. We picnic every day we can outside. Family walks every night. And then mowing, weed whacking, weeding, any type of yard work is a big time family affair. We have a push mower right now, not like a big drive around mower. I'd probably want all the kids inside or something if we were doing that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how even just the front of the house versus the back of the house is like a different adventure for the kids. And so the majority of the time we send them to the backyard because it's fenced in there. It's very contained and it's safe and we know right where they're at the whole time, and the trampoline's back there. But that keeps the front of the house like this new play zone every time they are able to go out. So I feel it's like this once a week privilege when they get to go to the front yard. And sometimes we'll open up the garage door here when I'm working in the garage. I oftentimes have like my office set up here in the garage, and I'll open the garage door and they're just ripping around on their bikes out in the street, but I can keep an eye on them. And so it's really fun to kind of change it up like that and have these special places that they're able to go to on rare occasions, because then they get all fired up, and then you can always pull that out of your back pocket when you're in, when you really need that extra time outside.
Yeah. So I want to know, what were you going to say?
Oh, what I was going to say is there are inevitable times of friction where it just becomes a challenge to get outside. And these are usually really consistent and predictable. And so the sooner you can identify these times of the day or these instances or the various activities that will keep you from getting outside, the sooner you're able to implement systems around those pain points. A common one is, we talked about our evening walks. Well, how often would I get home and the kids are stoked to see me? They're, Katie wants to talk, I want to talk to Katie, we want to catch up, the kids want my attention. It's so nice knowing that we're going to get that time after dinner. And so oftentimes, if Katie's still working at preparing dinner or she's got some unfinished projects right when I get home, I'm able to take the kids outside for 20 or 30 or 40 minutes right before dinner. Now, we're able to do this because we're prepared beforehand with this, because especially in the wintertime, it feels like such an achievement just to get the kids in their winter clothing sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when you've got big snowsuits and you've got a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old that you're trying to get into them and you're trying to find the right pair of boots, then that can be a big time inducer of stress. Katie has made it so that their clothes are so organized. Leon and Lucy and Lewis now know right where to go to get their own clothes, and they're able to get themselves dressed. And then I just have to worry about Lawrence, our 2-year-old, and even he tries to get himself dressed.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, exactly. So he's doing all that he can, but knowing that that's going to be a pain point, you can then create systems that support you in those kind of crucial moments when it just is so easy to say, no, let's put a show on, or go downstairs, and jump on the bed until dinner time, and to kind of push them off to something that actually isn't that beneficial or helpful.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I do think that organization plays a big part in making this a good experience, because if you're going out multiple times a day, daily, especially in the fall and winter months where you're gonna have more overgear on, then you do need to know exactly where it is. Like, I can't be looking for so-and-so's boots every single day, right? Or I can't be like, oh, we only have one mitten here and one hat here. The kids have to also foster independence, because they have to figure out, they need to get themselves ready. I can't be getting 4 little kids ready. So just for context, we did this last year with the 5-year-old, 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and 1-year-old. So that was kind of our 5-year-old, 4-year-old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old. So that was kind of our starting point. I think it's gonna get easier from here on out. Every single year, they just get more and more independent. But because we were doing the same repetitive things over and over and over, they got really, really good at it. And like Elisha said, we were really just worried about helping the younger 2 a little bit. And the big kids could do it all themselves.
That's right. This was well worth it, was it not, Katie?
Oh, yeah, it was just, again, it was a life-changing 9 months. We're never gonna go back to where we were before. Now that we've experienced the value in being outdoors, our kids have this huge craving, and we have so much momentum on our side. It's no effort for us to get outside. We feel something is wrong when we don't. And I love that. It's just this self-propelling engine now that is good to go. I mean, I'm sure this upcoming winter, there will be some days where it's like, do we really want to go outside again? That's a lot of work. But it's cool because 1, we know we've done it. 2, we know we've enjoyed it. We have systems that really help support us. And also, we feel like something's missing when we don't go outside. And I love that.
Me too. Folks, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, maybe comment below what you are doing for your 1,000 hours outside. Can't wait to see you next week.